Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the OHM Podcast. Now, this week I'm delighted to be joined by Lechezar, founder at LJV Media. Now, since 2020, him and his team have been hard at work establishing themselves as authorities in the paid ad space, and their focus is on scaling seven-figure e-com brands right the way through to the eight-figure level. And their mission is to bring real value back to the paid ad space with strategies that scale, ads that convert, and ROI that makes sense. So Lechezar, it's great to have you on, man. Thank you for joining me.
Appreciate the invitation. I am excited to get right into it and share some valuable information to all of the listeners.
Perfect. Well, getting started then, do you mind just kind of giving us the rundown on, what LJV Media is and your role specifically at the business?
Perfect. So LJV Media started almost 4 years ago, a bit over 4 years ago, end of 2020, as I was locked down, the virus. So I decided that it would be a nice time for me to get into the make money online world. Started learning Facebook ads, got my first client, which was a friend of mine. We were spending $3 a day on Facebook ads. I was stressing out. It was so stressful because I didn't want to waste her money. Did some good stuff with her, ended up not continuing, and then started learning everything about e-com. Landed our first e-com client probably 2 to 3 weeks after I started looking for those people. Started quite well. I remember, it's so vivid in my mind. Our first campaign was a 7x return on ad spend on $15 or $20 a day in spend. And I was thinking that I'm probably the best advertiser in the planet because the results were just so good. It continued like this for 2 months, and then they decided to end our contract. I don't know why, but that gave me the confidence that I really know what I'm doing. So second client, 1 month later, third client, another month later. And then since then, we've been focusing on e-commerce, paid advertising, meta. And then since 2 years ago, 2.5, content creation as well. Because obviously without good content, you cannot sell anything. And we realized that a lot of our partners do have a big problem in coming up with good ad creatives. Some of them don't have the time to. Other ones don't really understand the direct response marketing world. But that's what we currently focus on. We work with multiple 7 and 8 e-commerce businesses. We have had experiences working with some 9-figure e-com businesses. We've learned a lot. And fortunate to say that we've been able to generate some incredible results for the brands that we work with. We've seen some incredible growth, and here we are.
Nice. Taking it back to kind of getting started, how did you learn? Was your background in kind of media buying? What kind of courses or material were you using to get up to speed?
That's a great question. I had absolutely zero experience in marketing, media buying. I was just finishing up my exams at university. 2020 was when I told myself, this is my year. I'm going to do whatever it takes. So started studying for my exams. And then I saw a video online of a very popular person in the make money online space called Iman Gaji. He was basically having a podcast with somebody. And he was just saying that he's an average 18-year-old boy making $1 million a year in profit. So I was like, that's absolutely impossible. I'm probably going to never get there. But let's see what this is all about. He was talking about Facebook ads. So as I was in a lockdown, I was under quarantine for 14 days. There was nothing else for me to do apart from opening up YouTube 8 a.m. in the morning, typing out Facebook ads, and then watching every single YouTube video under the sun available online on how to run Facebook ads. So 14 days later, obviously I was an expert. And that's when I started working with my friend with the $3 a day in spend. But I'm self-taught. YouTube was the place for me, and that's why I'm so bullish on online education right now, because after spending 4 years at university, I don't remember anything, if I have to be honest. It's not applicable to me at all, but what I've learned on YouTube has made me quite a bit of money.
What did you study at university out of interest?
Business informatics. So It was a combination of economics and then informatics. I was never good at programming. Java, C++, I think was the program, or the language. Never liked it. And then, I've been fortunate enough to see this video online on YouTube, and it's been good ever since.
The rest is history.
The rest
So,
is history.
have you had any kind of formal media buying training since, or is it entirely kind of, YouTube and things like that?
Entirely YouTube, if I have to be honest, and then the rest of it is just experience, which I think is the best way to learn. Just learn by doing. I'm a huge advocate of this. So there is actually a very popular phrase by Grant Cardone: "You jump and then you learn how to fly." So that's what I did. Of course, I presented myself as an expert to my first potential client, which I wouldn't recommend you do right now because it's unethical, but I felt prepared for what was to come. Probably that was one of the reasons why I was able to generate such good results for them. But everything that I've learned in my life when it comes to media buying, e-commerce, content creation, it has been through experience and learning from other people. I've paid a lot of people to join their programs, to join their courses. So these are the main ways, the main source of information for me.
Yeah. And how would you say the kind of media buying has changed? I know, I'm not a media buyer, right? But I know kind of back in the day, there was a lot of kind of intricacy in the ad accounts. And it feels like, recently we've kind of moved away from that. Is that fair to say?
It's very fair to say. I've been unfortunate enough to learn about Facebook ads quite late, because that was, once again, end of 2020. And I think it was May or end of April 2021, the iOS 14.5 was rolled out, which changed everything for media buyers. 2020 was amazing. I don't think that I would have achieved the 7x return on ad spend that I mentioned if it was not that easy for people to just put an ad on Facebook and make a lot of money. I think basically dropshippers know best what it was 2016, 2017, 2018 to be a Facebook media buyer, which it was a lot about just testing everything under the sun, testing different interests, finding the best lookalike, 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, 10%. You had to test everything. The main emphasis was not the content, which it is right now. And 2021, iOS 14.5 rolled out, which changed everything. Attribution was a mess. Nobody knew what they were doing. And this is when people started understanding that content is actually the way to go. Algorithms started prioritizing the content that people engage with on social media. So if you don't have relevant content right now, you're pretty much, you have no chance. So it went from being very technical to being very creative. And unfortunately, not many media buyers have recognized this, because obviously I'm hiring a lot of media buyers. I've been always hiring media buyers. And the thing is that most of them still do live in the world of 2020. Pre-iOS 14.5, they think that being super technical is what's going to make the account work. Whereas if you don't understand marketing fundamentals, if you don't understand content, consumer psychology, it's just never going to work for you.
Okay. And it feels like, so you've just kind of got started, you've got traction as a media buyer, then there's, been this iOS shift. Then you've got to kind of figure out content and creative and that side of things. What does that process look like for you?
It was a heavy process, if I have to be honest, because I just ended up learning media buying. I was just starting to feel very confident and up to date with all of the latest information. And then everything changed. So I had to become a creative expert at this point, which is when I started reading very direct response marketing books that everybody's recommending, like cash advertising, breakthrough advertising, which are books that can really make you a great marketer. So studying content, studying from other people, other agency owners who have already figured out how to produce content that converts on social media. I'm not afraid to give them credit. These were Savannah Sanchez. These were Nick Shackelford, probably somebody that is very well known in the e-com and agency space. Mirella Crespi. I started attending a lot of online conferences. So a lot of YouTube videos, and I was just collecting every piece of information I could find on the internet, Twitter, LinkedIn posts, Facebook groups, which allowed me to build a system that I currently use to teach all of the creative strategists that I hire. And it's a never-ending process of just learning and updating all of the SOPs, all of the processes, all of the systems that you have, because the content space is changing consistently. But this is how everything started. And I was kind of used to gathering information from the internet, because that's how I started with the agency and Facebook ads. Just watching every single YouTube video. Out of a 20-minute video, probably get like 30 seconds or 1 minute of useful information. But that really helped me build a clearer picture and allow me to actually teach other people how to do it.
Okay. So it's kind of starting with the fundamentals, understanding kind of consumer psychology, ICPs, angles, and things like that, right? And then, yeah, kind of building out your own systems and processes.
Exactly.
Okay. And at the time when you started, was it short form video? Was it static? Like what kind of creative were you learning?
UGC. It was UGC. Everything revolved around good UGC. So I started finding a lot of UGC content creators on Twitter. Initially, of course, I had no idea that they need very, very detailed instructions on what kind of content do they need to produce, how do they need to present the product, what do they need to say inside of the video. So obviously, the first few batches of content that we produced were very bad. I'm not afraid to say it, but it's something that allowed us to understand that we're not that good at what we do. So then we realized that those UGC, as like people call it user-generated content, and think that it's unscripted, it's authentic and natural. The thing is that the best pieces of content that we have ever used to scale an account, all of them are scripted. Every single word is scripted. Every single clip, voiceover, and visual has been carefully planned. So this is when I realized that research is actually the most important thing when it comes to producing good ad creatives, because without you knowing your avatar, your ICP, their trigger words, how to speak to them, what have they tried in the past and failed, what are they looking for now, how do they speak about the solution, how do they think about the solution, who influences their decision-making process, you'll never be able to create content that works. So yeah, it was UGC and then a mixture of some static images, but that's pretty much all we did.
Okay. That feels counterintuitive. So I would think, as someone that doesn't know the space, if you're giving someone, a detailed script, that might come across as kind of staged and non-UGC. How do you strike that balance?
So that's a very good question. What we do before we start scripting a single video is we take a deep dive into the type of content that people consume organically on social media. This allows us to understand really how to speak to those people and what type of content do they like to engage with. Because, for example, let's say you're advertising a fashion brand. A fashion brand is all about really fast cuts, showing how the clothing piece would look like when you wear it. And then most of the time using aspirational content creators, because with fashion, you're selling a transformation. People want to change how they look and how they feel. So if you show them an aspirational person, like let's say a guy that's going to the gym, he looks very super fit, the clothing pieces fit on him perfectly. That's going to be the type of content that would work for people interested in fashion. But it's going to be something completely different that you need to create if you're selling a skincare product, if you're selling pet food, because you need to be speaking to people in a different way. So one of the ways we use to do the research is actually creating a new TikTok account for a particular niche and then starting to engage with content only for the particular niche. So let's say we sell dog food. We're only going to start engaging with content on TikTok that features dogs, that features dog parents, that features people talking about dog food, sharing the benefits, sharing bad experiences, sharing the positives. And this really gives us a good understanding of, first of all, what type of visuals do we need? Second of all, what type of scripts do we need to write? So yeah, this is a cheat code for anybody that's listening. You should definitely use it.
So you're surrounding yourself kind of with the niche and the audience and seeing what else they're interested in, the language they talk, in.
That's the main thing. If you want to really sell effectively to somebody, you need to be obsessed with this person. Mm-hmm. You need to be obsessed with the product and you need to uncover pretty much everything that there is to uncover on the internet. That's why I highly encourage people doing research to go on Reddit, to go on Quora, to watch long form YouTube videos, go through the comment section of those YouTube videos, go on Amazon, scrape competitive products, go through the reviews, because a lot of people use AI to scrape reviews, to analyze reviews, etc., which is good, it saves time. But if you're somebody whose job is to produce converting content, if you don't understand who's the person that you're talking to, no AI is going to save you. So very deep research is the answer to good ad creatives.
Okay, so that was going to be my question, is what else are you doing for research? And I think that sums it up, or that was quite an in-depth answer of the level you're going to.
I have another cheat code for people who listen. So what we love doing is whenever we start working with a new brand, we open up their IG account and then we start going through their followers. you go through these people's lives, and then you understand, like, where do they live? Do they have a boyfriend? Are they married? What kind of dog do they have? What's their interest? Do they like arts? Do they like football? Do they like basketball? Which after you do this a few times, a couple hundred times, not only a few times, you will create in your head a very good understanding of who's the person that you're speaking to, which of course is going to make your ads much more relevant because you're going to be speaking to one person in mind. And this is what effective advertising really is, just speaking to one avatar at a time.
Yeah. What's next, right? So you've done your kind of research, you've mapped that demographic, and you've got the characteristics of the person that you want to speak to. What comes next in that creative process?
So two things in the same time. First of all, finding the content creator who's going to film the content, and second of all, writing the scripts. So this is where AI can come in handy when you write the scripts, because if, let's say, you download 50, 100, 200, 500 reviews of people talking about the same product, you can analyze the most common words that they use to describe the product, the most common phrases, the most common emotions that they share, and potentially some stories that are similar to each other. So when you have this, you can write a very relevant script. Like, of course, the hook of the script is the most important thing. So if you mention something that's super, super, super relevant and resonates with the people, you're onto a winner. And it's kind of similar to what was very viral and overused in the past few years. You probably have heard of it. I'm obsessed. This is something that every single content creator was repeating when they were producing videos. Every single TikToker was using this when they shot their videos. I'm obsessed. So even though it was overused, it was also very native to social media. So going back to the previous question, what makes your content really look organic? This is what you do. So you study those people, you write the scripts in a way that people use to describe the product, to describe the transformation. And then, of course, the second thing is the content creator. So we try to mirror the person that we are trying to reach and targeting with the content creator, because we want the person to see himself or herself in the content creator. Of course, it's a bit different story when you're trying to create aspirational content, as I was saying about the fashion business, the fashion brand, because obviously if you're overweight, it's not going to be the best option to be using an overweight content creator, because that's not inspiring. That's not making you, push yourself to become the person that you want to become, because you're just seeing another version of yourself. But if you put somebody who went through the transformation of being overweight to now being super fit and looking super well, that's the type of person that you want to feature in your ad creative. So it would all depend on the product that you're selling, but most of the time you want your people to be seeing themselves inside your ad creatives.
Okay. And then you have the kind of final piece of UGC or ad creative. You're then, I'm assuming, running that and testing it in the ad account. What's next?
So actually, before we start testing, there is another very important step. When you get those content creators, you want to request from them raw files with unlimited usage rights, because raw files are going to allow you to decrease your ad creative production cost by a lot, because you can always reuse it. And in some cases, we do have raw footage that we got 2 years ago that we're still using to this day, which of course allows us to cut our production time, because we don't need to go through the whole process of finding a new content creator, shipping the product to the new content creator, and then having the content creator film and send it back. We can just get the raw file, send it over to the video editor, and then reuse it, which of course is also cutting our ad creative cost, because we have evergreen content that we can always use.
Are you editing pretty much everything in-house then? So you're not just getting the finalized piece back from the creator?
Exactly. And sometimes we do even request from the content creators 30 minutes to 1 hour of footage, so that we can have a lot to work with. And this is how big brands do it as well. Those super successful companies such as True Classic, AG1, Hugo, Hims, Ridge Wallet, all of them, they have the same system.
Okay. And then once you're testing things in the ad account, what are you looking for? What is good? What is bad? And what comes after that?
So the main thing is CPA, cost per acquisition, that we're looking at. So if an ad is not hitting the CPA within 1, 2, 3 days, depending on the amount of spend, we're just turning it off. And then we're trying to understand what happened. Because all of those ads, as I mentioned, are fully scripted. They've been created after a lot of research. So after you do this research, it would be good for you to spend some time analyzing why things worked and why things didn't work. So it gets more interesting when you get a winner that's hitting your CPA target or is well below that you can scale. And this is where through analytics come into play, because you start dissecting every single ad creative that has been a winner. You try to understand, like, was it the sound? Was it the voiceover? Was it the pacing? Was it the editing? Was it the messaging? Was it the avatar? Was it the content creator? Was it the call to action? Was it the offer that made this ad creative piece work so well? And in my mind, in my opinion, creative analysis is much more important than anything else, because we've had a case where we had one winning ad hitting CPA targets, spending about 25, I think it was either $25,000 or $50,000 profitably in spend. We learned from it, we analyzed it, and we were able to create another ad creative that spent $200,000 much more profitably at a much lower CPA that allowed us to scale the ad account much further. So that's why I'm so bullish on creative analysis. And this is what most people are not doing. This is why they're not successful. But this is also what the most successful businesses are doing. They're paying attention to their data.
Okay. You reeled off a list of kind of variables when you're analyzing the creative, like, you know, the voiceover, sound, etc. How are you analyzing that? Is it testing such a high volume that you can kind of see, you know, this one has the sound, this one doesn't, this has performed better, or what are you doing there?
So it's all about creating a hypothesis after you analyze a specific ad creative, because in some cases it's quite obvious that it's the sound, because obviously we're using super popular viral sound. All of the videos that we've seen organically have been going viral. So in this particular example, we can probably assume that it's the sound, but we have had this tested and it actually turned out to be true. So we produced the same ad creative with another sound. Didn't do anything, like it didn't perform at all. So it's all about creating a hypothesis and defining the variables that you want to test, because it's all about split testing and A/B testing everything. Because if you have a winner, it would be good for you to split test it with different hooks, like 5 to 10 different hooks. See if it was the first 3 seconds or if it was the body and the call to action of the ad that really made the difference. So it's all about testing, and it's teamwork. Like your performance marketer and your creative strategist, ideally your video editor as well, should all come together after all of the content pieces have been tested, and then create hypotheses of what potentially is the reason why this worked, what are the next tests that we can create, that we can do in order to prove this hypothesis, so that we can have it as a learning for future batches of content that we create.
Okay. And let's assume we found a winner, you know, it's within CPA target. How are you scaling, or how are you kind of like iterating on that piece of successful creative?
That's a great question, and actually a topic that's been very discussed on social media lately. The first and the easiest thing that you can do is to shoot the same script, the same setting, everything the same with a different content creator. So let's say you have one piece of content with a female content creator, you reshoot it with a male content creator, you then reshoot it with an older female content creator, you then reshoot it with a younger female content creator, because the hypothesis is that Facebook is going to show it to different audiences depending on who's the person inside of the ad. So this is the easiest thing that you can do. The next thing is basically to change the hooks. As I mentioned, try your top performing hook with the highest hook rate, pair it up with your ad with the lowest CPA, and see if this is going to work. This is something that has worked very well for us in the past. Doesn't always, but it's a good test for you to make. And then when it comes to scaling, there are a few methods that we use inside of the ad account. One of them is Advantage Shopping Plus, which has been great for scaling. And then we also test like a CBO, campaign budget optimization, with our top performing audiences. In most cases, this is broad or an interest or interest stacked interest, like a few interests that you select. And this is how we scale.
So you have kind of losers in a certain sense of, you know, creatives that hasn't worked. You're kind of working through the reasons why and trying to fix those. You've got your ones that are working and you're kind of scaling them. What happens next? Do you kind of go back to the drawing board, look at different angles and things like that, and kind of start that process again?
Great question. So because most of the times we're limited with the amount of pieces of content that we can produce on a monthly basis, we usually start by creating multiple different avatars of people for a particular product. In some cases, we have up to like 6 or 8 different avatars of people who could be good potential clients and customers for this particular product. So the next month, basically one of the ways we can start expanding and scaling is expanding into different audiences. Because if you know that your core customer is a 55-year-old male who's just about to go into retirement, but your second top performing avatar is a 22-year-old male who's hitting the gym every single day, this is basically how you can easily expand into a new audience by creating completely new pieces of content, featuring new content creators, new scripts. Because if you're able to scale Avatar 1, but then you are able to unlock Avatar 2, it would be much easier for you to increase your spend and do it profitably, because it's much easier to go from like 0 to $20, $30, $50,000 in spend with one avatar than going from $50,000 in spend to $500,000 in spend with your core avatar. Because at some point you just start repeating yourself and it gets very difficult for you to unlock the messaging that you need to unlock in order to scale the avatar.
Okay, so you can kind of scale only a certain way by testing different messaging, different, editing the videos differently. And then you have to, just by the law of kind of the size of the market, you have to unlock different avatars. Is that what you're saying?
That's what we do. That's what we find the easiest. But there are a lot of examples of people who've been able to scale with one main avatar. The thing is that after a certain point, you need to start, changing platforms, expanding out of Facebook, expanding out of Google, expanding into TikTok, expanding into Snapchat, into influencer marketing. So there are a lot of different ways, and it would totally depend on the size of the brand. But let's say if your brand doing, $100,000 a month, $200,000 a month, you can easily scale probably to like 500 to $1 million a month with just one or two main avatars and one channel.
Okay. I want to come back to what you said there about, kind of other platforms in a second, but just kind of going back to what you touched on before, in terms of volume of creative, could we maybe like bucket some revenue brackets and say how many pieces of creative at each level brand should be kind of testing each month maybe?
Yeah. We can do it. I don't have exact numbers. I'll be just going off of my gut feeling and like what I've seen work and experience. So if you're a brand if you're a brand spending less than $20,000 to $30,000 a month, it won't be reasonable for you to produce more than 25-30 pieces of content because you're just not going to be able to test them. So I think you can easily reach that level with 20-25 pieces of content, of course all different, so that you can then focus on the winners, which are probably going to allow you to scale another 50, 60, 70k up to $100,000 a month in spend. And that's when you need to start producing a lot more content. So after you pass the 30 to 50k a month mark in spend, you need to start producing more, let's say between 30 and 50 pieces of content. And then if you scale past 100k a month, that's when usually the brands that I've experience in working with, they start producing content in-house. They start working with one or maybe even two ad creative agencies so that they can increase the volume of creatives that they test. So that's when you're probably going to start hitting like those 100 pieces of content every single month from different sources. And if you want to go past that, let's say scale to 500k a month, like you need a lot of content. You probably need to be producing 20 to 30 pieces, 50 pieces a week so that you can sustain and actually scale profitably.
Okay. Interesting. That is a lot of content. Talking about platforms now, I've heard some people say, like Meta, you can scale to 9 figures. You don't need anything else. And then, we've got brands that we work with who are doing 100k a month and they're on, 3-4 different platforms. What is your thoughts on that? And what do you guys do at LJV?
So it would all depend on the product. And Sean Frank, the founder of Ridge Wallet, the CEO of Ridge Wallet, what he's basically saying is that if you want to scale to 8 figures, you need a big total addressable market, ideally 1 billion plus. So if you have this, if your product is appealing to so many people, I definitely believe that you can scale past 100k a month with only Facebook. I've been able to do it with my own e-com brand just through Facebook. So maybe Google, like you probably need to be on Google as well because it's just a low-hanging fruit. But then expanding into TikTok, into Snapchat, into whatever else you want to expand to, Pinterest, you don't need it. Like you just don't need it. And there is also a very good example of a business, a very successful e-com brand that was able to scale primarily through Facebook and Google, through Classic. You're going to hear and see the founders and basically the CEOs, not the founders, of the business talk about Meta and Shopify all the time. Because these were, obviously Shopify is the platform hosting their store, but Meta being the main acquisition channel for them. So this is a company that scaled from 0 to I think 250 million a year in sales in 4 years, which proves the point that, you can do it. You have to remember that those people are selling t-shirts, so male clothing basically, basic t-shirts and shirts, which is a huge addressable market. So you can scale only with Meta. The thing is that there needs to be enough of an audience to buy your product on Meta.
Okay. And assuming you do want to add on different platforms, do you guys have a kind of playbook or a timeline to do that for brands that work with you?
So what we do is we only specialize in Meta. We also do TikTok and TikTok shops. The thing is that TikTok shops is a completely different beast. So yeah, we've had a lot of businesses that were able to scale past the $1 million a month mark, primarily through Facebook and Google. And then when it comes to playbook, yeah, as I said, unfortunately, we only do focus mainly on Meta. So probably there are other channels that somebody else can scale. That's not going to be us. But I'm also hearing currently and recently, there is another tool called UpLovin. Pretty sure that you've heard of it, which is recommended to brands spending over 20K a day on Facebook that most people say is very profitable. You're seeing similar results to Facebook. So apparently this could be another opportunity for people to get into another channel if they are at the right scale and maintain their ROI that they're seeing on Meta.
Okay. I just want to bring it to a point that you've kind of touched on in the question before. You mentioned that you had your own brand and a lot of what you're currently doing now is learnings from that. Can you just talk a little bit about the project and kind of your involvement?
Yeah, my involvement is actually a very interesting conversation because I was just posting, like shit posting basically on Facebook. And then it turned out that a friend of mine was seeing these posts who actually has his own Amazon business, but he wanted to start his Shopify business. So he was like, hey, do you want to run our ads? And I was like, hey, no, I don't. If I'm going to be doing anything, it's just going to be as a co-founder and I'm not interested in anything else. So he was like, cool, okay, let's do it. A beauty brand that they previously tried scaling, but since they're not on Shopify, they're on Amazon, they had absolutely no idea how to scale a D2C. So I think they've had the brand for like 3 or 4 years before I joined. And probably the brand collectively generated no more than $1,000 throughout the whole period. And then I joined. We produced a few ad creatives, UGC and static images. And then within 4 months, we were able to reach 100K, which was a huge milestone. Obviously breaking even. We were not profitable. We were just breaking even, which is an important thing to mention. But we didn't really care about profit. All we wanted to do is validate the product and then get some customers, because obviously we can always use email marketing to get them to buy again. But yeah, the main point was not making money. It was just primarily for fun, if I have to be completely honest, because I was not spending more than 4 to 5 hours a week on this brand as we were scaling. So yeah, it's interesting to get the perspective of e-com through the eyes of being a brand owner.
What did you learn in that process that's now relevant in the agency?
That's a great question, and I'm going to be completely honest. I've learned that most agencies are absolutely terrible. They suck, and they have absolutely no idea how to deliver a good service, because we did work with 2 agencies. The worst experience. So now I understand and now I know why people think that advertising agencies, email agencies, and all of the agencies suck, because most of them, they do. So this was a big revelation, because obviously me being so focused on the service delivery, I always cared and will always care about my clients. So I will never allow for, stuff to break to a point where they're extremely unhappy with our service. But apparently other people don't think this way. They don't really mind it. So that was a learning. And then the next thing that I've learned a lot of things. Seasonality is a thing because we were selling a summer product. So you can assume that right now it's not the best time for us. But we had a period of a few weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, when the weather was terrible. Like it was raining, it was cold, it was dark, windy, cloudy, and we were not selling. Like no matter what we did, we just couldn't sell. The moment the sun started shining, we were selling like crazy, like 50 to 60 orders a day. When the weather was bad, like we couldn't make 5 sales. So this was another important thing that I've learned. And just having an e-com is much more difficult because obviously you have to pay attention to a lot more things. You have a physical product. We ran out of stock multiple times because we had no idea how to forecast, how to plan, when should you order stock, when we should even think about ordering stock. So apparently this is an important part of running an e-com as well that I never knew as an agency because I never had to deal with.
And is this a project that you'll be picking up again next summer? Scaling?
Yes, we're currently working on a second product because obviously we want to increase our AOV, which if you're an e-com brand, you should always be trying to increase. Because if you have an AOV of $30 and you're advertising in the United States, you have absolutely no chance because your cost per click is probably going to be $3, especially if you're in a competitive industry such as skincare, beauty, which is going to make it extremely difficult for you to be profitable if you're paying that much just for one click.
The final kind of thing I want to do in this chat is just talk about kind of the evolution of the industry. So I know you've been in the space 4+ years now. You've seen a lot of changes. What do you think is kind of the big thing or the big 3 to 5 things going into 2025 that's really going to make or break brand success?
Great question. First thing that I'm bullish on, but not many people seem to be, is communities, like developing a community for your brand. Because most of the brands that have generated over 9 figures, they do have some kind of a community. Most of the times it's just a simple Facebook group, but we currently have a brand that's doing about 20 million a year. And the amount of information that we can gather from the people in this Facebook group that are only like 5,000 to 6,000, which is not much in the grand scheme of things, but actually a lot when it comes to a community, it's mind-blowing. We can get so many details regarding why did they decide to buy, what were they looking for when they bought, what competitors have they tried in the past, what was the main USP, etc., etc. And having the founder be inside of these communities actually works wonders because people love that human touch, that human connection. And we've been able to see a lot of people really commending the founder on the fact that he's on Facebook, he's talking to them, he's responding to their questions, he's responding to their comments, he's responding to their posts, and he's just being involved, which shows that he cares. So that's great. Like that's phenomenal when it comes to creating really brand advocates that will only talk positive stuff about your business, which is going to create that social proof. It's going to create this flywheel effect because one person is going to tell another, is going to tell another, is going to tell another, and then you have a huge network of affiliates that you're not even paying to promote your product. And this is the best, proof, social proof, and having happy customers. So that's number 1. Number 2, content, obviously content, and something that I am very, very, very bullish on right now. I actually have a conference on Saturday that I'm going to be talking on, and I'm going to be talking about this topic specifically, direct response marketing and different stages of awareness. Because if you don't know what's the awareness level of your customers, you will be not able to show them content that's going to make them move to the next level of awareness. And if you don't have content that is targeting people who have never actually considered your product and the problem that you solve, it's going to make it tricky for you to scale. Like, it's not going to make it impossible, but it might extend the process of scaling, because if you're able to create a desire out of thin air and make those people convert, this is something that can accelerate your growth 5, even 10x. And obviously content is the first. Your ad creatives are the first touch point of your prospects. So if you don't have good ad creatives, you're dead. But I feel like this is something that most of the e-com brands do already understand. nonetheless, I would definitely put it at number 2. And then number 3, AOV, as I mentioned previously. I'm sure that you can resonate with this as well. Because, yeah, if you can increase your AOV just by like 10%, this might allow you to sustain a higher CPA or just generate more profit that you can then reinvest into more ad creatives, into more Facebook ads, into different platforms, and scale your business. So I would say that these are my top 3 things.
I just want to dig on that final one quickly. When you're saying kind of increase AOV, are there any tips that you have for brands of what they can do to do that pretty quickly?
Yeah, I have 2 that come up at the top of my mind. First one is post-purchase surveys. Like, it's common sense, but there are so many people that aren't using post-purchase surveys, and that's like an easy lift, such an easy lift. We had one brand that saw like a 15% to 20% increase in their AOV just by adding upsells, post-purchase upsells. So these are usually one-click upsells. People just need to click on a button and they get the product, which is a great way to make somebody to spend more, because the best time to sell to somebody is right after they bought from you. So that's that. And then another thing that people should be careful about, because sometimes it's not going to hurt, but sometimes it may hurt a lot, is price increases. Because for my own brand, we were seeing at some point that we were unprofitable just by a bit. And then what we decided to do was to increase our price by an extra $5. It didn't result into anything apart from more profit for us. So the conversion rate stayed the same. Of course, AOV increased, which allowed us to spend more on ads. So these are the 2 main things. I don't have anything else, but I would be curious to hear if there are more tactics so that we can implement with our clients.
I thought you would go with like cart bumps and kind of recommendations on site, but it's very interesting you went post-purchase and just increase pricing for sure, right? Big one.
Cart bumps, bundles, upsells on buy 2 get 10% off, buy 3 get 15% off. This is actually something that we did with our brand, and I was against it initially when the website was being developed. I was like, this is ugly, remove this, I don't want it. And my co-founder was like, no, let's have it, let's test it. So it turned out that a lot of people were actually picking the middle offer, which is buy 2 get 10% off. And probably this is the reason why we started with a higher AOV than what it could have been if we just sold like one product.
That's a good place to end. I think the key is testing, right? A lot of this is theory, and you won't know the exact answer until you test it. You get the data and you can kind of move from there.
Yeah, that's something that every digital market is going to tell you. Just test it. That's the advice. Just test it.
Well, look, Lechezar, it has been great having you on here today. I've got, 2 kind of final questions to ask. First off is brands that are interested in working with LJV. What kind of size, industry, etc. do you normally focus on, and how can they find you?
So we best work with brands that are already generating over 7 figures a year, ideally spending more than $20,000 to $30,000 a month. This is where we can actually shine and help them grow fast. We also have experience with starting from zero, but it's much more difficult because obviously we don't have the confidence that we would otherwise have if the brand is bigger. Of course, ideally we want bigger brands that are doing $1 million a month, but these are very difficult to find. So what was the second question?
Where can people find you if they fit in those categories?
LinkedIn and our website, ljv-media.com. Website is very boring, very ugly. Apologies. I don't really care about it too much. So there is a button. Book a call with us there. And then LinkedIn, if people want some more advice on e-com, ad creatives, Facebook media buying, I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's where they can find me.
In fact, I will post those in the description. And then final question is, do you know anyone else that will be a good fit to come on the podcast?
That's a great question. Do I have to give you an immediate answer?
Don't, no.
Perfect. Then I'm going to think about it and I'm going to give you the best person to speak to.
In fact, well, look, thanks again for coming on. It was great talking to you and really good chat.
My pleasure.